Okay, the backside power engager. This is basically about getting your body moving powerfully down the mount. So once you get that early weight shift, that early momentum in the first move, you want to engage your back leg, letting your hips drop a bit as you start that move towards home plate. So you can also think about this as kind of sitting into your stride. Now we're not talking about collapsing the back leg here and sinking straight down, dropping straight down. We're engaging the back leg and we're strong with the back leg here. Some guys will get lower than others here, and that all depends on your style, your flexibility. But what you want to avoid here at all costs is being too stiff or passive with the back leg. And what you see with guys who are in that camp, who are too focused on staying tall or they don't want to collapse the back leg, is that they stall out over their back foot. They end up with a slow stride, totally devoid of power, and it's the opposite of what you see with the game's elite pictures, which we're going to see in a minute here when we start looking at the video. So with that, let's go ahead and check out the video. All right, so now we're going to take a look at how some big league pitchers move through this phase in their pitching motion, coming out of their leg lift, really that backside power engager where they sit into their stride and kind of engage the back leg, getting the center of body, the center of gravity moving powerfully towards home plate. This is really where guys accelerate or start that acceleration towards home plate in their stride. And we first got Sonny Gray right here, a real powerful, dynamic young pitcher, and he does a really good job getting his body moving powerfully towards home plate. Fernando Rodney here, again, no leg lift, but sits into a stride well and gets his body going. Yu Darvish, so his style, he gets real low, okay? He's a pitcher, he gets real low in his delivery, really gets his body moving powerfully there. And then we've got here Rosenthal, Trevor Rosenthal, 98, 100 mile an hour guy, and really gets that back leg into it. Here's McCarthy, who's more of an over the top or more of a tall pitcher, throws downhill, but you can still see him engaging that back leg and sitting into his stride. So different style, still doing it here. And then Kershaw, again, kind of that funky delivery, but really sits well into his stride, gets that back leg into it. Homer Bailey, kind of the same thing right here as he comes out of his leg lift. Gonzalez, Felix Hernandez, Verlander right here. And so all that same thing, all these guys, different pitching motions, but you see them all engaging that back leg. Here we got Doug Fister. All right, now we're back to Sonny Gray here. So let's just take a look at these guys going through their motion. I'll go through Sonny Gray right here. Boom. Bring him back. All right, so we just watch him go through his delivery here. And you'll see it's real fluid, gets that body moving towards home plate well early. So that good early momentum we talked about in the previous video where he's in his leg lift. Those hips are definitely going towards home plate, but it's this move right here as he comes out of his leg lift. So obviously he's generated that early momentum. His center is moving towards home plate. And then as he flows out of that early weight shift, you can see him kind of sitting back in his stride. The arms are still relaxed, nice and closed off, loaded up. And if there was like a stool or a chair out here 2-3 feet down the mound, he would be kind of moving out to sit back into that stool or chair. Okay, so that's the move we're really talking about, is there's that early weight shift and then it flows right into engaging the back leg, being strong but flexed with it. So you're kind of sitting back in your stride. And that little drop, as you get things moving towards home plate, that little drop sort of accelerates your move down the mound and what helps you to generate that good power and usually leads to a longer stride as well. Okay, so our next picture, we got Fernando Rodney. We'll watch him go through again. Boom, real powerful. And what you really see is, as he comes out of that just early weight shift, right here, how he is so loaded up with his hips, closed off with his hips. There's that bend in his back leg, so he's kind of sitting back early in that move to home plate. So there's that little bit of early weight shift where he gets his center moving forward, and then he sits back into it real early here. So he's really engaging that back leg and sets him up well to really drive out explosively towards home plate in his delivery. All right, now we'll move to our next picture here, Darvish. All right, it's throwing a bullpen, so not full speed, not full force, but it's a good side shot of him, so you can really see this move in action. We just watch him go through his delivery a few times here, boom, nice and fluid. Again, he's a guy who gets kind of low and kind of sticks that lead leg out. That's his style, okay? So that's not something necessarily you need to copy, and everyone's going to be a little different in their pitching motion in terms of how low they get. But what you do see is as he comes to his leg lift and there's that shift forward, so the hips are starting that move forward, he starts to sit back into it. So it's like, again, if there's a chair or stool out there, he's like moving out to sit back into that chair or stool. The back leg is flexed and strong, and the hips are going from being up here to dropping down as he's moving towards home plate. And again, that helps him to accelerate and get his body moving powerfully towards home plate, towards the target. All right, next picture we'll look at, Rosenthal. Boom, and you just watch him, we're looking at him from behind here. And really what you can see from behind is how he's getting loaded up, and then quickly, as he comes from the height of his leg lift, you see the back leg start to bend. Okay, he's allowing it to bend, and that flexion, that bend in the back leg allows his hips to drop. And it's like that first move on a roller coaster, that first drop. Okay, as he's moving forward towards home plate with that early momentum, the hips drop, and that really accelerates that move towards home plate, and that's where he gets all that power from in his stride. Boom, and I think that was 98 miles an hour right there. So that's kind of, he's a good example of a guy who really kind of lets the hips drop and boom, explodes towards home plate powerfully. We'll go to our next picture. So here we got Brandon McCarthy, kind of a guy that a lot of people might think of as sort of a tall and fall type picture, real tall picture, stays pretty high with the center of gravity. So if we look at him versus, like, say, a Yu Darvish or even a Trevor Rosenthal, he doesn't get very low. If we look at him at ball release, he's a pretty upright or tall picture in his stride. His back knee, you know, it's not anywhere near the ground here the way you would see with like a Darvish or a guy who gets a lot lower. But as he comes out of that leg lift, he gets that kind of early momentum, and you'll see that back leg bending. Okay, so he's kind of engaging the back leg, sitting back into his stride early as he's kind of loading up or moving out of that early weight shift. And if we watch him go through, we'll see from behind, you can really see it. So here from behind, this is the same picture. See, nice and tall as he's getting loaded up, but then quickly engaging the back leg, sitting back into his stride early. So that's when I talk about sitting back in your stride, this is really what I'm talking about. Engaging that back leg, letting the hips drop a little bit as you start that move powerfully towards home plate. All right, and then with Kershaw, let's take a look at Kershaw here. Getting kind of that up and down action, but then he really gets his body moving powerfully forward. So we'll watch him go through again. And just key in on that first move as he gets that weight shift right here, how he sits back into it and really gets that back leg into his delivery by, as he comes out, by engaging it, sitting back into his stride early as he comes out of that early weight shift move. Okay, and you can really see it right there, and that's where the hips are starting to move forward. He's allowing the back leg to bend, and boom, and then he can really explode powerfully towards home plate and finish it off all the way. All right, so here we got the king, Felix Hernandez, going through his delivery. You know, real unique kind of style where he gets coiled up and loaded up in his leg lift, almost towards second base, kind of coils up there. Not something a lot of guys would teach young pitchers. But again, we're looking at guys with different styles, and you'll see the same things with all these big league pitchers. The key things that you see is that early momentum, and then as we move into that next move, right here, you see it right here. Okay, engaging the back leg or sitting into the stride as you come out of that early weight shift. Real quick, you see Felix going from loaded and tall to boom, that early weight shift, engaging the back leg, sitting back into a stride. The arms are not involved yet. The throwing arm's still back here behind his back leg. It's not getting up early. Okay, so all that momentum, he's building that momentum in his lower half, getting his center of gravity moving powerfully towards home plate, and he's strong with that back leg, but it's bent. Okay, so he's like sitting back into his stride, and that allows him to get his hips and his center moving powerfully towards home plate. Boom, and again, that leads to that good, powerful stride. And it's really a key ingredient for maximizing power in your pitch delivery. Okay, so now we're going to look at another picture. All right, so Verlander. Again, some things that these guys do, you wouldn't necessarily tell a pitcher to model. Verlander is nice and smooth in his pitching motion, and this video here is a little bit like slowed down, so you can't really watch it real time to get a total sense of his pitching motion, but you see the movements he's going through at least, and real fluid. His finish, you know, he kind of locks out with that front leg, doesn't have what guys would consider the best deceleration or follow through. But if you look at early how he generates power, all right, he's getting loaded up, Again, he's got that early weight shift, but then also real quickly, you can see that back leg. All right, he's sitting into his stride. He gets that good early weight shift, that kind of subtle early weight shift, and then quickly he's sitting into his stride. The hips are dropping and moving towards home plate powerfully. Okay, so you see that with all these guys, that they get that early weight shift and then they're engaging the back leg. And here's another picture, Doug Fister. Okay, different kind of style, more of like a tall type of a picture, but you see him really engaging that back leg. You know, he's real quick. So all these guys have different styles. That's one thing to take away from all these videos, is that every picture's got their own kind of idiosyncrasies, things that work for them. He's real quick. If we go back to him, like his first couple moves, real quick in that first rocker step and get loaded up phase. But then as he gets loaded up, it's that sitting back into it, the throwing arms relax, is down by his side, and he's engaging that back leg while staying nice, closed, and loaded up in his stride. And then that leads to that powerful explosion and rotation in his finish. Okay, so you can see all these pictures, different styles, all of them do the same things as far as the big key drivers. Okay, that early momentum, and then this move we were looking at right here, that engaging the back leg or sitting back into your stride to get your body moving powerfully towards home plate. Okay, so that wraps up video number 2. Again, this is a key move for maximizing power and getting your body moving powerfully towards home plate. And basically, the faster you get your center moving towards home plate, the harder you're gonna throw. It's why guys always throw harder from a crow hop, where they can get a running start, than they do on the mound. Nothing you can do about that. We can't get that running start on the mound. So what we need to do is find other ways to get our body moving fast and powerfully down the mound in our delivery. Now I'm going to include another short video for working on this down below. But again, if it's your first time watching these videos, we want to watch these power move videos in sequence. So move right on now to power move number 3, where we're going to look at another often overlooked opportunity to maximize power, the counterbalance and loaded stride.